G'day and welcome back to Nuffy's Builds. For those of you who've subscribed lately, thank you very much. For those of you who've given me a thumbs up, much appreciated. For those of you returning just to check out the video, see how we're going, thank you again for coming back. Really is appreciated. Today on Nuffy's Builds, we're going to be looking at this rear hump. So last time we found this basic shape of what we like here, or what I like, and hopefully you guys like it too. So in order to start shaping that up and seeing how it looks three-dimensionally, so from the back of the bike, the front of the bike, the side, the top, we're going to put some foam against this piece of this template here, make a block basically, and then start shaping it from there. This may be the third time now that I've come up with a shape. I've looked at the other previous shapes and I'm very close every time. I've put them aside, started afresh, and I'm coming down to being within probably 5mm of the last one in shape and design. So I think I'm on the right track as far as what I like. So I'm going to start with that. Any of this can change as we move forward. I've now got some ideas about changing this tank out completely, rather than cutting into a perfectly good tank, possibly just reshaping from the beginning, so getting a smaller tank and then foam and fiberglass over the top of that to get exactly what I want. I don't have metal shaping tools at this stage, and so I guess my skill level limits me to probably timber and fiberglass, things like that. So and some basic metal work. So that's where we're at the moment. So really want to focus on this rear tail and find as close a shape as I can at this stage for a buck or a mould. It's looking like today I'll be bracing this rear section, so the two main bars coming back. I'm not going to cut them off just yet, but I'm going to use this hole at the back here to put a threaded rod through there to support the width of that so it doesn't spring apart. And then I'm going to look at probably cutting this bracket off. I have bought a battery for the bike now, so I know that I want the battery to fit in the back here if I can, which I think it will, which is why I've spent an absolute fortune to achieve that. And so we'll be cutting this bracket off and then putting a platform on top to get a rough base shape of the mould at the back, or the hump. And then from there we'll pack the foam onto it, glue the foam onto it. It's just a foam that can be sanded off. It's known as a product called Oasis, often used for dried flower arrangements, things like that. We buy it here at locally at Bunnings. So we're going to crack on with that very soon. Just a couple of thank yous. We just had Father's Day here and a couple of weekends back, and I was very blessed. Received a microphone from one of my boys. So that's currently hanging, or the wires coming across here, and we'll get that set up on a little tripod in the future. But just in the interest of wanting to improve the sound for you guys, it's sitting up here at the moment, and hopefully me touching the bike isn't going to resonate through it. So little Joby microphone. We've got a little little fox's tail to stick over the top of it for outside in the wind. Also I received these couple of air tools from my other son, and so yeah, little saw, little reciprocating saw, just for particularly getting into little tabs, little areas like that. I've got a large powered recip saw, and I think in the States and over in say Canada and America, and I know they're two different countries, but they call them Sawzall. Pretty much it cuts anything. So yeah, so I've got a larger one, but just to get into some of these tighter to reach areas and be able to take these tabs off cleanly. So we've got this little one here, and also this beautiful little 10mm wide belt sander. So so be able to get in a little linishing tool, sanding and linishing tool. So really looking forward to using them on the build, and obviously having the improvement with the sound for you guys out there, so guys and girls. So thanks a lot for joining me. Without further ado, let's crack on with what we've got to do today. Okay, so in starting with this, we've got the shape here that I am intending to find as what I like at this stage. I have got a thought that I would like to possibly move it back a little bit. In changing this tank out, I'm definitely going to try and move the tank forward or shorten the tank up. I went to a coffee shop yesterday called Fonzie Abbott's, and in Brisbane, and there was a gentleman there who had an absolutely beautiful little cafe racer. It was a Honda 404 FOUR at the end of that. I believe his name is Alex. He did a beautiful job of that, and I hope he doesn't mind me showing a little picture, but I'll drop it on the screen here somewhere so you can have a look at it. He's done a great job, and one of the things I really liked with that bike, and I mentioned it to him, was this V here in the middle of the bike. So at the back we've got, at this stage we've sort of got this V, and then we've got the rear hump of the bike starting or kind of following this line up, but the tank sits back from this V at the front here. Now on Alex's bike, his tank pretty much follows that line, as you'll see, and I really like that. So I'm not saying that's definitely what's going to happen, but I want to have a look at that. So it may be a case of mocking this rear section up here, which I really like, and I know that I like it because I've done it 3 times now, and each time I'm getting, you know, literally the same curve. And this first one that I made, I didn't have the radius curves that I made for this one here, and so, you know, I'm finding that I've obviously found that radius and that size is very, very close. So all 3 attempts are so close, but I must be on the right track for what I like. So that's where I'm at the moment. So I've got the battery here, just to give you an idea. Now, yes, you can go smaller, and yes, you can spend a lot more money on these batteries, but I mean, this thing is, you know, it's so light, it's incredible. It's still got a bit of volume to it, it's still got some size. The reason is I did go up, I stepped it up for a slightly higher cold cranking amps, and so this is looking to go down in here sort of thing. With this removed, it means I can get up a lot higher, just to give myself clearance underneath for that tyre. So that's what we're working with. We can also tune that on its side, things like that. It may even go across the bike this way. We do have, you know, there's room. There's probably a good, for you Americans out there, there's probably 3/4 of an inch either side, so maybe 15, 18 mil either side for the locals. And so, and this battery can go anyway. It's a lithium ion. It's a fullback. Bought from my friends at AMX in Morayfield. Really took care of me. Got a good selection, good range there, and so I went with this one here, and we're going to try that out. It's also got this little test function on it, which I thought was quite neat as well. So you just push and hold the button, and it'll tell you where it's sitting, built into it. My understanding, don't quote me on this, but my understanding is I can also I can charge this using a standard lead acid battery charger. I'm not saying you can do that with all batteries, all lithium ion, but this is one that it does mention something, and I do have to clarify that and make sure that it is covering all of their lithium ion batteries, including this one. But a lovely little unit, and looking forward to making a space and a home for that in the back of the bike. So let's get on. Let's cut this bracket off the back, set up the back here so we don't lose that width, and go from there. Okay, so we've got this these blocks of dry florist foam. I don't know if you can see on there. So it's a dry florist foam. There is a product called Oasis, which is a green one. The green one's designed that you put it into water, it soaks up the water and holds it, so you can put, I guess, live flowers and things into it to keep them alive and feed them with a bit of water. The dry one is designed more for dried flower arrangements and forming motorbike parts, clearly. So anyway, about $5 a brick, super light, easy to sand, easy to cut. That's what we're going to be mocking up this rear section with, and tank, whatever we decide to make. So let's get on with it. Okay, I just want to create a base for the hump, so I'm just going to cut a piece of MDF oversized at this stage. So we go somewhere around the width of the frame being 235 millimeters. Plus I cut a piece about 260 by 260 by 380. One of the things that I do know about this bike is that the wheel, the tyre, sits directly through the centre of the tank and lines up with the centre of the headstock. However, the framing of the back here is slightly offset because of the shaft drive setup. So the frame is slightly off. So where I've got a centre line on this board, I've just put some little arrows. Typically, the arrows are going to face forward, so I know that when I set this up, that's how it's going to be. Now, that's definitely not going to be at the front. And now I'm going to set this up, put it on top. So I'll split this where it sits on top of the frame roughly, and that will be on top, and then I'll put the other piece underneath and then look at the curve of that afterwards. Just to give you an idea of how I'm loosely mocking this rear end up first is I've got the side profile, so I cut the bottom part off of our template. Should fit on the bottom of that piece right there, and then just to get an idea of that angle sloping back. And then the base plate there. Now, I started to just do a couple of sketches of just a straight boring curve. It may go back to that, and then I've just done the same curve and then scalloped the inside out, tightened up that top part. You can see I've got this offset problem with the frame that I've got to get around, so realistically what I've got to do is try and trick the eye into seeing or not seeing the frame and seeing the hump, because that rear section of frame is offset to the tyre, to the centre line of the bike. So I kind of need to hide this portion of the frame at the back, from the back, and also possibly from the side. So I'm probably going to wrap over the top of that there, or that will get cut and go narrower, so that the hump at the back hides that framework and just hides that offset. Yeah, it's going to be fun. So that's where I'm at the moment. I'm going to loosely create a shape for the bottom on here, and that will determine where the tubing needs to be cut off, the rear bars, depending on how angled. I've also moved this whole section back at this stage, so nothing will get cut until I lay it all out and work out exactly, because I want to keep as much of that original subframe as I can. You know, it's solid as a rock, so, and it's good, so if I can keep it all I would. So, you know, we'll just we'll see what happens, but that's where we're at. So now I'm just going to cut this. I'll leave this piece here at the front. I'll glue this onto this baseboard, loosely shape that on the left and the right of it, cut that out, set it down, fill it with foam, put the piece on the bottom, fill the bottom with foam, start shaping. Just your typical CA glue. So that's what we've got. So I'm just going to drop that on the bike, sit that on the back of the bike, and I'll have a look. The square cutout is obviously for the battery, assuming that we're going to have it sitting sideways. And of course, I've forgotten about that bolt at the back, so that's going to get in the way. That's okay, we'll just set it there for now. What I might do is just take this bolt out of the back now that I have this distance set, and we'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so this is what we end up with. So just a basic buck, I guess. It's really just the spine of the buck. Now what I do need to do is remove this bolt from the back. Now, the smart thing to do is take this internal measurement here, which is exactly 180 millimeters in between, so I know that measurement now. So I can take that bolt out, drop that in place and have a look. There it is, basically the framework. Obviously I don't need to probably tell you that, but and clearly we've got the battery sitting in there. So just to give you an idea of where we're at, the next stage of course is to put the blocking foam in here. Help our template sit a little bit nicer on the back of the bike. Quite simply just going to use this little hot glue gun. Very scientific. Yeah, it's hot. Very scientific. Yeah. Okay. So we've got that. I'm just going to cut this piece off because we're going to put that part of that on top. So there it is. Ooh, sharp saw? No. Just nice, soft material to be working with. Okay, I'll just change the angle so you can see me set that up on the bike. Start with straight, flat cuts. If you go below the line that you want, you can easily glue a flat piece back on. You know, you can stick it back on to a flat surface. If you've started off with a curve and you go wrong straight away, it's a little bit harder. You've sort of got to cut it back. So start with just straight cuts to start with. And ask me how I know. I'm just going to cut that piece off the corner. Try and keep your saw square at this stage. You're not trying to shape it with this, you're roughly shaping it with this. You're not trying to contour it, you're just trying to remove the excess. There you go, perfect. Oh, there was fiberglass over that, job done. I wish it was that simple. Okay, so now I have this template here that I used at the front. And I'm just gonna, I've got a centre line marked at the top here, and there's a centre line on the back here. There we go. So I know where it lines up with roughly. So what I'm going to do now is just, yep, you guessed it, just going to mark, loosely mark that shape. Hope you can see this. Look at that curve there. And you guessed it, more four. Oops. Okay, I'm going to put you on time lapse now. You've got the idea. We've now got just angular cuts, rough angular cuts of what we're doing here. Not trying to get really close to our design or shape. We're just getting rid of some of the, you know, you can still see we're 10 millimeters away from our actual shape. We're just getting close. So now I'll put you on time lapse, and I'm just going to gently, now I'm going to try pick this up in Bathurst, but Bathurst is a place where they do some pretty serious racing, and I just happened to go into a shop that did collectibles, things like that, and would you believe they had this? I think I picked it up for like about $5 or something. Never used it, so here we go. Let's see what happens. Just need to be so gentle. I actually think this is probably just a little bit aggressive. I'm just going to grab a bit of sandpaper and just a block of wood for now. I do have a sanding block somewhere, but let me just grab a bit of sandpaper. Let's just see how easy this is to shape by good sanding block, Paul. It'll certainly take the high points off, but to be honest, I think with this stuff here, look, it's amazing. It just, it just rips it off, and I'm barely touching it, otherwise it just stops. So I'm gonna let you go on a time lapse and watch me. I'm gonna use a sanding block, just a little block of wood and a bit of sandpaper, and just gently wipe over it until I. Literally took maybe maximum 5 minutes to just find that shape. That's how quick this stuff is. I mean, you can actually see it coming off with your hands. As simple as just bit of sandpaper. This is 120 grit sandpaper. This is where I said about the glue. You don't want to use too much glue because it's going to stick out and it gums up your paper. So just gently work it. Don't rush it. It's hard to go back. Just sit it there. Hey everyone, we stopped this important broadcast just to mention that the manual for the bike has arrived today. I received this in the mail. I'd ordered it online, and Bob Vinicombe, so that is Bob VINNICOMBE @gmail.com. Now Bob allegedly does a lot of different manuals, and what I found was really interesting, I just chucked it on the floor, sorry Bob. What I found was really interesting is Bob wrapped the manual up before he put it into the envelope to send it in old magazines, old motorbike magazines, and this one here, for example, is quite interesting. 1954, pages from a 1954 book here. So I gave Bob a call. He put a little flyer in with his package just to let me know email address and some contact details other than what was on eBay. And so I gave him a call and I just said, look, thanks very much, Bob. I had as much fun unwrapping it and having a quick squiz at some of the old articles here as it was of receiving the manual itself. So so Bob Vinicombe @gmail.com, and I'll put that in the description below. And if you're looking for old motorbike shop manuals. Look him up, see what he's got. Sounds like a lovely gentleman to deal with, and definitely an interesting way to receive your goods. So let's crack on. We're going to finish shaping this up tonight, and then we're going to start looking at how we mirror what we've got here onto the other side. So how we're going to replicate a right hand side over to the left hand side, and so that's coming up, and then we're going to leave it there for this video, and then the next video coming up very, very soon, we'll be laying the initial cloth. Well, it'll be skimming the surface with a Bondo or bog slash filler, and whatever you want to call it, depends where you're from, I guess. So we're going to skim that, and then we're going to sand that back, and then we're going to wax it, or paint it, wax it, and then we're going to lay the fiberglass over it. So talking about it ain't going to get it done, so let's crack on. Okay, it's Friday evening, and I'm going to just keep having a crack at shaping this rear hump on the bike. Just thought I'd give you a little bit of a different perspective. So you're going to sit on the chair on top of a bucket, on top of a stand, and you can watch the continuation of the shaping of the rear hump. Tomorrow, hoping to get out for a local ride early in the morning. I've got a GoPro that I'm borrowing off a mate of mine, and just going to give that a go and see how it goes. So going to take the old Kawa Clacker out for a run, the 650, and hopefully at the end of this video you'll see a little bit of footage of just a local run for me up through the windies, through the what they call the Peachester range. And so for now we're going to crack on with this this build, and I'm just going to set you up on this very strategically placed stand, and you get to look at the ceiling and everything else. But hopefully, sorry guys, I'm going to chuck you on time lapse, and we're just going to continue ripping into the back of this bike here and sorting out this tail section. So I'll try and find an angle that looks half decent, and we'll crack on. Okay, I am really happy with where that's at tonight. So that's half of the hump pretty much done. We've got this nice little angle on the bottom there. Don't want to change it too much more than what it is. So realistically, it is time to create the other half. Yes, I've got a little bit of a gap here, but because of this tube here, because I haven't cut that back yet, and what will actually happen is this hump will probably sit ever so slightly lower, or I will just trim the bottom of that tube there, or bend it in. And so I've got a few ideas there, but basically that tube will disappear on the bottom there. That will be the shape, the radius there on the bottom. As previously explained, it follows this curve of this bar up and around. It will do on the side. We go forward a bit, but once we get all that set up, that is going to follow that curve around there. Then we're just going to look at this piece here. Where do we fill this gap in as part of the hump? I think we will. And then again, we might just leave it as that. I haven't decided yet. There's a little bit of dust in the air. So, really happy with that set now, and we're going to try and do our best to replicate this hump on the other side. Get a full three-dimensional, both halves done, and then we can slap some bog on there and go to town. Turn it into something that's nice and crisp and hard that we can work with. We'll stand there and look at it lots. I have tried to do a little bit of trickery at the back here with the hump to try and, because the frame is offset, but I'm trying to get the side of the hump to come out roughly where the bottom curves down in line with the center of this rear suspension, and hopefully that will be the same there, but keeping the center line of the bike straight through there. So excuse my finger, but that's where we're at. So let's mock the other side up. Let's have a look, see how it looks, and yeah, kind of liking that. It's growing on me. And then obviously after that we're going to lay some fiberglass over it, give us a nice crusty hard surface to work with, and we can sand that up, paint it, then we'll invert it, we'll use the inside. Right, so we've got a coat of resin on there now. Really highlights the high points, so straight away I can see that this line here is what I want on this side. It's a little bit more rounded down here, and this bottom edge is actually kind of coming up a little bit squarer, I guess, to the bottom plate, whereas on this side here it's pushing out a little bit. I kind of like the right hand side, so I'll have to either sand back. I think it's just bringing that down a little bit lower on the top there. The back here, this is a sharper line through here. This is a little bit more rounded. I want this sharper line on the bottom, so I'll just have to fill that with a bit of the body filler and then sand that and get it a bit sharper finish. It's filled a lot of the little holes. This is still wet.